So, Assemblyman Holley, welcome. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Max, for the invitation. I hope you and your family are well. It's been some challenging times, recently, and I hope that you and your family are doing wonderful.
Thank you, sir, and to you and yours as well. So let's start with the most controversial element first. You kicked off this week your bid for state Senate Assemblyman, and you invoked civil rights leaders. And yet, do you really think that Martin Luther King and John Lewis would be against public health?
No, I don't think they were against public health at all, and neither am I. Those were inspirational heroes that I depicted in that video that inspired me, even until this day. And through looking through their lenses, it's sort of what I see, going on even 50 to 60 years later. And it's something that I'm passionate about in terms of our community and having a voice in our community and raising the issues and raising some questions that are relative to the people that I am amongst.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I do want to point out that in the last 24 hours, Facebook shut down the page of Robert Kennedy, judging that he was spreading misinformation on the issue of vaccinations. And he came in and is an ally of yours, he fundraised. How is your position on vaccines different from Robert Kennedy's? And if it's the same, what is Facebook missing about the message? And what are people in your own party misunderstanding about your position on vaccinations?
Yeah, well, it was Instagram. It wasn't Facebook. I think he is still up on Facebook and also Twitter. But similar to Bobby, myself, I'm not against vaccinations. I'm against mandates and having government dictate to parents or individuals on what they inject into their children. I am pro-science. I am pro-safety, and I'm not against vaccinations at all. And I wanted to spend some time on this because there's been some misinformation out there in terms of my stance on vaccinations. And by the way, I'm a fully vaccinated individual up until my flu shot. So I'm not against vaccinations, but the bill that was before me was a bill that would segregate public school kids and public daycare children versus private school kids and private school daycare children. And so I don't believe in segregation. And it also, in that bill, would remove the religious exemption for individuals who practice. Now, when I signed up to become an elected official, I didn't sign up to be between a doctor, a parent, or their children. That is ultimately the choice of the parent on what they want to vaccinate into their children. I believe in vaccinations as long as it's safe and it's effective. But at the end of the day, the bill that before me was about segregation. So if the public school kids have to adhere to the mandate, then why wouldn't the private school kids have to adhere to the mandate? Are we saying now that
Did you attempt to get that language put into the bill, or are you just generally against that kind of mandate in this particular instance?
I believe I'm against mandates as a whole as it relates to vaccinations. I don't believe that government should dictate to you. Max, you're a father, right? You have children. So at the end of the day, should that be my choice as the elected official, or should that be a personal choice of you between your children and your doctor?
And well, in the case of a pandemic, if we have people making their own personal choices, won't we run the risk of creating spread?
No, not at all. Not at all. If individuals have a choice to go get vaccinated, if you're vaccinated, then why would you even care about if someone else is, if you're going to be protected? This was about the bill in front of me. This was about segregating our kids. The conversation started about the health and wellness of all school kids, not into segregating our kids based upon where they live, where they can afford to go to school. And I wasn't the only one. I may have been the loudest, but that's why the bill died, because there were other members of the legislature who didn't believe in segregating our children and didn't believe in removing religious exemptions as an exemption to make that choice. That choice is clearly up to the child and the parent in consultation with your doctor.
Assemblyman, what has been your position regarding combating the pandemic? So we've been in this for almost a year. Where do you see yourself differing on critical decision making in terms of us fighting the pandemic? Do you part company with your party and particularly this governor in terms of a delivery system of policy to make us safer? And if so, where?
I think any elected official across the board, whether you're Democrat or Republican, believes that we need to be safe. You know, the science and the data is misunderstanding. It hasn't been transparent. I sit on the health committee, and a lot of the data that you see is not current. Some of the COVID test results and the cases are some cases from months ago. And it's dumped in to appear as if it's today. I've clearly followed and have always advised individuals to follow the guidelines that are set forth. Even those are sometimes questioned. When you have Dr. Fauci or Dr. Birx, you know, pleading to America to do certain things, and then yet they find themselves not doing it. So I believe that if you are the head of states and you are in the forefront of things, the things that you are advising others to do, that you should do that as well. And I've only asked questions. And the moment that you ask questions or raise an issue, you become an anti-vaxxer. You know, it's only a big pharma talking.
But Assemblyman, you become an anti-vaxxer, but you also become potentially an advocate of the other side, the Bill Spadias of the world, who then see you as someone whose questions align him with their point of view, which in a highly politicized environment in this pandemic has mostly driven the argument that the pandemic is a hoax and that we don't need to mask up. So where do you differentiate yourself between?
I don't think the pandemic is a hoax, Max. I think that we've lost some wonderful people. Some I've known, some I don't know, across America. Friends, colleagues, some family members of friends. I don't think it's a very serious a virus. But at the end of the day, there are questions about the virus. There are questions about the rollout of the vaccines. Even till today, the government still can't get it right and roll out the vaccines. In particular, let's talk about the Black and Latino communities. The Black and Latino communities were hardest hit during the pandemic, yet they can't seem to attain a vaccine when necessary. So it's about questioning, Max. I don't believe that the virus is a hoax. I don't take this as a joke, but as a member of the health committee and as someone who sits to make critical decisions, I think I have the right to ask questions. I think I have a right to participate in the dialogue. And I believe that I have a right to, when I ask these questions, I'm not put into a column, you know, with others that may not appear to be in line with what the rest of, you know, mainstream media wants to, you know, sell to their viewers. I mean, how often do we have big pharmaceutical companies advertising on a lot of these mainstream medias? That's driven by the ad space, that's driven by what they promote. And I have no problems with that. At the end of the day, I'm asking questions, and I believe that others who are in similar areas of minds to ask these questions have a right to do that. I don't think this is a hoax at all. And I'm just asking questions and putting out information as I see fit.
Assemblyman, at what point did you become aware of the organization shifting underfoot? it seems now to have been about a year or so that you've been at odds with the Union County Democratic Organization, which ultimately resulted, or so it appears, in you undertaking a Senate bid against the incumbent senator, Joe Cryan. Could you address a little bit where things came apart?
Well, I think as I became very vocal in the legislature on critical issues, one against the mandates that we just talked about, one raising the issues on the inequities and the inequality that is going on in this state, and the issues as relative to social justice. You know, these are very popular issues in my community, but when you stand out and step up, they become very unpopular to the party structure, because at the end of the day, these are not issues that they clearly want to address. I've been in the legislature 6 years, but how long have we been talking about racial injustice? How long have we talked about the inequalities prior to me even becoming a member of the legislature? So at what point do we take the issues that we are faced with on a community level, state level, county level? At what point do we step up and step out and address these issues? And I've been not one leader, but there's several leaders who have joined me in this quest to raise these issues, raise these questions, and put pen to paper and put legislation. So I think that my voice has become louder on these issues because I want to get it done. Listen, I know it's not easy and not everybody can do it. But at the
What are
end
we
of the
talking
day,
about here? Pardon me, Assemblyman, but what are we talking about when you talk about social justice issues? Where is this Democratic Party, specifically this Democratic Party establishment and the incumbent senator, derelict on social justice issues?
I think he's been absent the entire dialogue. Where have you seen the incumbent senator talk about or step out about anything on racial injustice or anything on social justice? He hasn't. He hasn't said one word about it. And look at the bench here in Union County. We have over 27 judges and only one African American. And I'm not saying that you have to be Black or Latino to become a member of the bench, but don't you believe in making sure that the bench represents the county and the community? It's no reason why we have Black and Latinos being arrested and sent to jail at a higher rate here in Union County. It's about balancing the bench, and that's going to be a focal point for me when I become senator, to balance the bench, to level the playing field on the bench. So the incumbent has been zero silence on social justice and racial equality. It's a very uncomfortable spot for him because he doesn't want to deal with it and doesn't know how.
Well, what are some of the other issues? So you mentioned the bench. Prioritizing those issues as senator for Black and brown people in the 20th district, what does Senator Holley's agenda look like?
Well, it's bringing hope back into our district. It's making sure that Black and Latinos and other families that don't look at like us to come together. I'm about protecting the kids for our future. I'm going to work tirelessly for them and continue to raise the issues until we fight down these barriers that have been put in place so that working families can have a real chance. Listen, you know my history, you know where I've come from. Government was very good to my family. We were raised in a single parent, grandparent household where we had Medicaid and we had food stamps. Those issues are still going on, but yet there's a lot that's still being cut. When I walked into the legislature, the incumbent was who I am going against now was an assemblyman. School funding in our communities was cut. Public school funding was cut. I restored it. I worked very closely with the speaker at times where we held up the budget because we wanted to make sure public funding, was restored for our communities that we were raised.
But Assemblyman, wasn't that an executive decision by the then
No,
governor?
if it was the legislature has the ability to insert themselves and raise their voices, and in most cases, strong arm to get things done. And I'm willing to step up and step out and be vocal on issues that are important to our community. So no, you can't blame it on the executive. You have to have full responsibility as the legislative branch, which is actually a co-equal of government here in the
But
state of New
Assemblyman,
Jersey.
just to play the devil's advocate for a moment, Senator Cryan's record as an opponent of Governor Christie was fairly documented at the time. He in fact was thrown out of the legislature because he was among those who resisted Christie. In other words,
No, I don't think that that's true. I think Joe had issues with the party establishment. I don't think he was just thrown out. I think that Senator Cryan was involved in some things that wasn't becoming of individuals, and he had some issues, personally. But
well, as I recall it, forgive me, but I don't think that was why he left the legislature. I believe that he left because he ran afoul of the same establishment that had allied itself with Chris Christie. And the senator had represented, or he was an assemblyman at the time, but he was very strong on public worker issues. And that was the main adversary of Christie and Sweeney at the time. He had run afoul of an establishment which was anti-public worker. And public workers make up.
That's a different issue when you talk about the public worker, and you're correct on that piece. But we were talking about public education and public funding and things of that nature that are relative to the community here as a whole.
So where would you improve that? Where would you start in terms of assessing education and public health for your residents in the district, and perhaps depart from what exists now?
Yeah, well, I'm going to continue to speak up. I'm going to continue to fight for the restoration of public educational funding. I'm going to continue to do the things that I've been doing, but at a greater level. When you're in the Senate, when you have a little more capability to do more things at that level. I'm going to bring this community and this district together. I'm going to continue to be visible. Quite frankly, the incumbent has been, not visible, not active in the towns, not active in the communities, not active with parents and community groups, not active with our municipal governments, not active on real social justice issues that we are faced with in this minority district. He has been completely silenced. And I believe that this district deserves a representative who is one of them. And that was the point of the video, that I am you, I am this district. I am the 20th legislative district. This is a community that I was born and raised in, and I'm going to be able to deliver for them because I'm amongst them and I am them.
Sir, your opponent, after your announcement, released numerous endorsements of establishment types. And when you look at that list, starting with the governor of New Jersey, do you think that it says something about his strength, or do you see it as a bunch of people who are detached from real individuals and perhaps in an establishment bubble? And if so, how and why?
Yeah, I mean, that is the establishment. I think they are in the political bubble. I've had some real concerns that I've raised on the governor. I'm probably not the most popular legislator that is amongst the governor's allies, because I think he's failed, in particular, the Black and Latino community. When we've come out and voted for him at 97%, and he still hasn't produced at least half of that. Endorsements on paper are not endorsements amongst the neighborhoods. And I have endorsements amongst neighborhoods, my neighbors, friends, other people who believe in my candidacy. And I believe that, since we've announced, we've had a groundswell of people in all four towns. In fact, I got a report last night that we're at over 300 signatures already on petitions. People are calling. There's a level of excitement on this campaign that we've kicked off. And the energy is so wild. I mean, it's unbelievable of the energy that we have received. And we're channeling that energy right to the neighborhoods. You know, folks are reaching out, what can I do? We deliver petitions. In fact, we have 2 fundraisers set up already from individuals who have reached out for March. This is a growing campaign. It's an exciting moment right now in this district. They've never had a real opportunity to elect an African-American state senator. In fact, we have 3 Caucasian senators that represent Union County. And I think that because of the national issues that we have been confronted with, I think they're looking for a real representative that looks like them and that can bring a balance and fair and equality to the Senate, but more importantly, to this district. But going back to the endorsement, you know, we looked at it as a sign of weakness. It dropped 2 hours after we announced, and, you know, quite frankly, folks just laughed at it because it was just rolling names. And we know a lot of those individuals on that memo, that press release that came out, and some who say they're going to support us as well. But Max, I think you know how this works, right? It's the party establishment, and we don't believe in putting friends in harm's way. You know, some folks on that list are going to be supporting us. Some folks are going to be.
I understand, but let me ask you this. Pardon me, but when you talk about, for example, Governor Murphy, on the issues that he ran on a millionaire's tax. Right. He ran on increasing the minimum wage, and he ran on marijuana legalization. And he's right. The doorstep of the last, but he did pass the other 2. And so what is it that is such a significant transgression on this governor as he faces re-election?
He ran on it, but Max, you know the internal politics that happens in the State House. He couldn't get it done. It's the persons that you're looking at on this screen, like me and other individual colleagues of mine, who really grabbed it by the issue base of what those particular issues were, and we got it done. The governor just merely signs.
But Assemblyman, even if he were the most spastic elected official of all time, ultimately the result is the same. Now, the obstacle course that he ran to get to the finish line still shows him with these accomplishments as an incumbent governor.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Max, I think that people understand who got it done. It's one thing about running on something and signing a piece of legislation, but actually putting in the work and having those meetings and getting it done. Listen, I'm not going to discount the governor. He came in, made a lot of promises, one of which you mentioned that we still don't have legalization done. But listen, he hasn't done an extraordinary bad job. I just think that he hasn't put in the work that's necessary to bring us out of the inequalities that we have and still exist in this state. This state is not fair.
You mentioned legalization.
Hold on one second, Max. This state is not fair and balanced. We still are living in an inequality state here. And my goals is to, whoever the governor is and whoever the Senate president is, whoever the speaker is to continue to bring these issues to the forefront and actually put pen to paper and block down these barriers and get it done.
Assemblyman, you are someone who has, getting back to your other point about being a vocal person in the legislature, you've been very vocal on marijuana legalization, and to your credit, you came out and spoke at an event that Insider NJ had and avidly debated others at a time when it was still a very fertile issue with a lot of differing points of view. And why is it, do you think, that has not gotten done? And where are we in terms of the process, and what will it require at this point in order to get across the finish line?
I actually think we're there. We had a great call with the speaker, myself and 2 of the other sponsors yesterday. We reviewed some proposals from the Senate side. I think we're actually in a much better place than we were about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I think that we can get this done within the next couple of weeks. And in fact, I think there'll be some announcements in the next few days. I'm looking forward to it because, Max, as you know, that this has been a long time coming. And I always remind individuals that when the original bill in the legislature was introduced several years ago in the Senate, it had no mention of social justice. It had no mention of social equity. It had no mention of the tax dollars that would be derived from the revenue back into the impacted communities. It had none of that. It wasn't until I introduced the same exact bill and proposed those amendments. And now we have that in these bills. So tax dollar revenues will be returned back to those impacted communities, as well as property tax relief. There'll be a social equity program for minorities, women, and disabled veterans to participate at a level playing field that our other counterparts may have had the capital to. And then we got expungements and we got social justice. So a lot of that work has been put in because of the amendments and the working progress that I've had with my legislative Black and Latino caucus members. It wasn't easy, but we got it done. And like I mentioned to you, it wasn't a part of the original bill, but we're at the finish line, Max. I feel pretty confident that we will get this done. But those are the types of things, those are the types of barriers that I have experience with. And those are the types of things that I'm going to continue to fight for at the Senate at a much higher level to actually get these real tangible things done for our communities. People are suffering, families are hurting, and I'm amongst that. And I want to continue to advocate and fight for them. And I will do that in the Senate.
Let's talk about the community for a moment, if you don't mind. The 20th Legislative District. It's a fascinating district. It's a very diverse district. It's got Elizabeth and Union Township and Roselle and Hillside. I don't think I'm missing any. I think that's the whole ball of wax. But could you tell me a little bit about growing up in the district? What was your life like there, and your particular orientation into politics, and how you got involved and how you've stayed involved in the 20th district?
I mean, it was a tremendous childhood for me, Max. Growing up in Roselle, which we've always had family on Elizabeth and Hillside and the other towns. This district is very unique, and I'm very proud to represent them as the first African-American assemblyman. It was a wonderful childhood. It was a childhood where the crossing guard was a partner in helping you grow up. It was about the police officer who participated in the upbringing. You know, we were raised by a single parent grandparent. My grandmother was in law enforcement, very tough, but if it wasn't for that, I don't think that I would be the man that I am today. But it was about the educators back then. It was all a village that participated in myself and my brothers and our upbringing. That's missing now. And I think a lot has to do with it, with leadership. I think a lot has to do with representation. And I want to bring that back. And I know I can bring that back because I am the product of that. And I believe that the reason why I've been able to be successful as a councilman and been able to be successful as a mayor and been able to be successful and reach to the level of an assemblyman, soon to be a senator, is because of my community. And I'm going to fight every single day that I have to ensure that we bring our families together tirelessly. And I think that that's what's missing at a much bigger level in government. I'm going to be focused on making our communities healthy, bringing out facts of why African Americans and Latinos are hit hard in healthcare, and we don't have the attainable avenue for healthcare. And I want to talk about just making our communities and put it into action as well, Max, to how we make our communities healthier. And I'm going to be releasing, the road to recovery for the District 20 in the next several weeks, and talk about taxes, making our communities healthy, and a host of other social justice issues that we're confronted with. I'm very excited about the opportunity. I think now's a great time, and the community's been very overwhelming over the last few days.
You've had a very active political schedule over the last 12 years, going back to the election of Barack Obama. It seems to me to be around the time when you began to accelerate. I remember you winning some school board battles, and you used the school board as a base of operations, kind of a classic New Jersey conventional urban attack strategy where you get the school board and then you go after the mayor's seat, which you did, and you became mayor. You also, I believe, presided over the first same-sex marriage in New Jersey. And Elizabeth, if I'm not mistaken, if it wasn't the first, it was very close to the first.
We claim it as the first. Marsha and Louise Halpern, a very good couple who I've met and have a great relationship with over the years. It was a remarkable moment for me, and I was honored that they've asked me to participate. Senator Lesniak, who you know I've known all my political career, has been a great advisor to me over the years, asked me to perform, and I was very honored. And those are issues that I continue to fight for on a daily basis as well. When I raised my voice and advocated for LGBTQ issues, they called me this. When I advocated to protect the children's parents' choice against mandates, they called me here. They put me here. When I raised the issues and fought for racial and social justice, they put me here. So every issue that I have fought for and have actually won, they've always put me in categories. And so, it's about when you step out there and you're doing the right thing, Max, the critics and the others are gonna take an opportunity to try to paint you as someone, but I've always stepped out with my heart and my mind guided to how do we address these issues that this particular community is dealing with. And whether you like the issues or you don't like the issues or you have concerns about the issues, I look at it as is that there's a group of people who are looking for a voice. And I've been that voice for a lot of these groups in the community over the years, and even so now.
Well, you were also very vocal on the lead in the water issue in Newark, and in the part of the 20th district impacted by that calamity as well, that health catastrophe. But I think that the general consensus is that on this particular issue with the vaccines and the pandemic, that you seem to have departed from that very grounded democratic voice, and that gives your opponent, I would say, an additional piece of ammunition, in addition to the daunting line of the Democratic organization. And how do you overcome that?
Because we're looking forward to the conversation, and we're looking forward to breaking down the bill that was before us. And I would ask that, and I would implore that if the incumbent or the other candidates in the race want to have a real robust conversation about mandates and vaccinations, I'm willing to do that. But the question that you should also ask them, Max, is that do they believe in segregating our kids? Do they believe in taking a parent's choice from making a medical decision for their child? Listen, we have over 7,000 pro-choice parents on record here in the 20th legislative district. None of them are against vaccinations. Some have vaccine injured kids. And it's a sad story when you have to hear the aches and pains and the voice that are coming from these particular parents and what they have to do to take care of their children up at night and struggling throughout the weeks. No one wants to sit down and hear those stories. So who's their voice, Max? They're put into a category if they step out and say, I just want to have an opportunity to choose for my child. And when they step out, it's like they're put into this category. But at the end of the day, my voice only lent to what I was hearing from them. None of them are against vaccinations. And I'm really looking forward, and our campaign is well prepared to address this issue, because this is what the opponent has always tried to put out against me. But he's got to understand, and the others in the race have got to understand, we're going to have a real robust conversation about this, and they should be well prepared, because we are going to be well prepared, not only on this issue, but other issues about our community. And it's not going to be just a one issue based campaign. I have a real hard track record of social justice and all the other things that we've talked about during this conversation, but that's going to be the campaign. This is not going to be about someone just putting me into a category because I stepped up for parents to have a choice for their children. and not being mandated to take something that I don't believe that we should be doing as government officials. So we're looking forward to this, Max. We're well prepared to address any of this, but they should also be well prepared to have the breakdown of the conversation as well. And I'm looking forward to it, and our campaign is looking forward to it as
Sir,
well.
may I ask you this? So if you're successful, if you overcome the odds and you win, who do you picture yourself supporting for Senate President?
Listen, Max, you've brought my political career up a couple times, throughout this conversation. I was against the odds growing up. A child born to an unwed teenage mother was less likely to graduate high school in the 79 statistics. I achieved that. I went on to college. I went on to graduate school. My political career, I had many challenges as the youngest African American and youngest councilman ever elected in the borough's history. That was a challenge, but we overcome it. I became the first youngest mayor in the borough's history. That was a challenge, but we overcome it. I became the first African American state assemblyman. That was a challenge. We've overcome it. So I've been a part of being the underdog my entire single life, Max. This is
I don't want to discount that, but I also would point out that in some of those instances, you did have the support of the party.
Yeah, and guess what? In some of those instances as well, we were going up against people who were off the party line as well. And in a lot of these battles across the years as well. I think that I am in a great position, Max. I feel very confident of my record. I feel very confident in the intensity of this campaign and the momentum that this campaign has gone. And if I'm elected Senate, which I believe I will, yeah, I have a great relationship with Senate President Sweeney. He's led the Senate. We may have disagreed on some issues, but his leadership is really raw. It's something that I like to deal with as it relates to individuals who want to really have real robust conversations. And we have real robust conversations and debates. And oftentimes we disagree and sometimes we agree.
But that doesn't mean someone who could do the job better at this point. He's been there for a long time. Is there someone else that could actually do the job?
I don't know the internal politics. I think that there are other senators that are capable of doing the same job as well. But, I'm not informed of the intel of what goes on in the Senate leadership. I'm only involved in the Assembly leadership intel. But as it stands right now, if I'm a elected senator, in which I believe we will look at the level playing field. And if Senator Sweeney is a gentleman that wants to continue the Senate presidency, I don't see why I would be totally against it. But we have to look at those options when we get there. I don't want to put myself in a situation where we may be looking at a different map at a given time. Politics, it changes daily. But,
let me ask you this, sir. You're running off the line in a gubernatorial election year. Might we see a former Roselle Mayor Garrett Smith gubernatorial candidacy in a newfound alliance with Assemblyman Holley's Senate candidacy? Or is there a gubernatorial alternative to this incumbent?
Yeah, Max, you have mentioned the line several times, and it's been accomplished. Look at the lines of the Senate. Look at Senator Ron Rice, who's been off the line and won tremendously. Look at Senator Nia Gill, another lion in the Senate who was off the line and won tremendously. Voters are educated. When people say, well, when you're off the line, they don't see you. Voters are educated. They're going to go into the voting booth and they are going to pick and select a name who they believe is going to represent them. I think the national politics in itself has played a very, very critical role in that, and that people are now looking at their representative and putting a real focal point on who they want to represent them. Look at Georgia. I mean, those are prime examples. Look at the other mayors who have been off the line in communities here in Union County who have won off the line. Look at the council members who have won off the line. So I think we put too much stress on the line as opposed to looking at the education of the voter. The voter now is more in tune to who represents them and who they want to represent them at every single level in government. And I don't think it's going to change in this particular instance. I believe that we're going to roll out a great campaign as we have. We're going to campaign and we have a great strategy to go get our vote goals, and we're going to be judged upon our record and what we roll out in this campaign. And at the end of the day, I believe the voters are going to go in that booth and look for my name and select me and make me their next state senator.
Donald Trump, are you glad he's gone?
Yes, I am glad. I think that he has did a tremendous service to this country. I think that at the highest level of office, he's been an embarrassment. I think that it is unbecoming of a president to act that way. And it's been difficult for us as legislators and working through the legislative houses to accomplish many great things that I believe that we could have accomplished. Now that that's gone, we have a new administration. I'm very optimistic. I'm looking forward to working with them, not only as an assemblyman, but in my role as the state senator. When we accomplish that, I'm excited about the opportunities that the new administration brings. And listen, we may have different political views or ideologies on certain instances, but I believe that we're going to be moving in the right direction in this country. And I'm looking forward to being a part of that and bringing all those differences of opinions as a whole at a table and hammer them out. I think we've gotten away from just saying if you're with this or you're with that or you believe in this and box it all in. Let's bring those issues. I think that that is leadership, when you bring every aspect of what everyone is talking about to the table and deal with it. And that's the type of leader that I have experience with, Max. All my young adult life as a councilman, as a mayor, as an assemblyman, I've had those types of experience of taking all of those components and bringing them to the table to figure out how do we address it and get it done. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to covering the campaign, Assemblyman. I can't wait. And certainly it's going to be a fine political opportunity in one of the most interesting districts in the state. Thank you so much for running. Thank you for serving our state, and thank you for coming on today.
I want to thank you, Max. You know, I don't really sit down a lot and speak with a lot of journalists. I think that we've gotten away from real journalism. I think that we've gotten away from real reporting and having a dialogue and having a conversation and discussing some of the issues that we're all confronted with. You know, journalism here, in particular in New Jersey, has gone to clickbaiting and headlines. But this is one of the reasons why I've sat down with you, because I've admired you over the years. You're fair, you're balanced. You have a human side to you that someone can talk to and hammer out different issues, but you also have a role and responsibility to do good journalism, Max. And I think you've done a tremendous job at doing this. They're doing this. This is my first interview, and I've been called on many interviews since we've announced. And I'm going to be very selective. And you were my first interview because I respect your work and admire all of what you've done over the years as being a real journalist. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And it's always been a pleasure covering your campaign, sir, and look forward to covering this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best.
You too, man.